From Kanto to Alola, from Dragonites to Duraludons, from Korrina to Kiawe. A lot happened in Season 1 of Pokémon Journeys, and today we are going to review all 49 episodes to bring everyone up to speed on the story of Pokémon Journeys for the new year, as well as to discuss what was good and what was not so good. So let's get to it. Hey everyone, it's Charles. How are you today? What better way to jump into January than by painting a clear picture of everything that went down last year. In the Pokemon anime, that is, because everything else that went down was mostly rather sad or boring. And let me just say that this video is for all of you who frequently ask me, and by frequently I mean just about every single day, to do Pokemon Journeys episode reviews. This video is for you, 49 episode reviews in just one video. I hope that you enjoy it. Yes, we will be reviewing every single episode in Season 1 of the anime, delivering some colorful commentary followed by a rating from 1 to 5, 5 being for the highest Hoppips and 1 being for the stinky... Yes, I could not think of a Pokemon reference right there, but this will be a good opportunity for us to not only discuss what was good or bad about the Pokemon Journeys episodes, but also an opportunity, as I had earlier mentioned, to get up to speed on all of the major story and plot points in the anime thus far. So tune in if you do want to hear everything about Pokemon Journeys that has transpired thus far in just one video. And while we will be diving into the nitty-gritty of each episode today, if you want to check out my general review of Pokemon Journeys as a whole thus far, well, do take a peek at that video after you wrap this one up to get the full picture. Consider it the part 2 that came out before part 1, but isn't bad. But for now, pour yourself a hot cup of cocoa and pull up a seat to the campfire, because we have 49 Pokemon Journeys Season 1 weenies on the grill ready to go. And as always, it will be a fun time, so kindly request your Diguda to mud slap that like button around for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe for some super top secret big videos around the corner, and let's jump right in. Episode 1 was set just a few years prior to the start of the series, and as you may know, Ash's Pikachu was once a Pichu, but then it became a Pikachu, and the Pokemon Journeys prequel episode unveils this backstory to viewers for the first time. It also introduced us to Go, an awkward kid who wants to catch Mew, and Chloe, a girl with a nice shade of hair. All in all, it was a decent way to set up the show that got fans new and old excited about Pikachu's backstory and these two new characters. In episode 2, Ash traveled to Vermilion City with his mom and neighborhood bootyologist, Professor Oak, to attend the opening of the Cerise Laboratory, which would become the central hub of the anime. Ash soon met Go during an in-air Lugia pursuit, and an anime-defining friendship was born. After returning from a ride aboard Lugia, the two boys became research fellows at the Chad Dad Lab, and their round-the-world research and battle quest began. This was a very strong setup episode that established the dual protagonist relationship between Ash and Go, delivered some tasty fan service, and treated viewers to some very cool sights indeed. Episode 3 was like those late-night Girls Gone Wild commercials that you used to watch after your parents went to bed, except that all the girls were replaced with strange, green, bulbous creatures running amok across Vermilion City. Yes, I know, it is way better than those infomercials. Team Rocket also made their Journeys debut in this episode, and the writers really took the trio to very new and exciting places this season, with James piloting a giant mech into battle and Meowth hooking up with Jessie. Just kidding, none of that actually happened. What actually happened is that Team Rocket did the same thing that they always do, but this time they are packing a capsule machine that supplies them with random Pokemon whenever they head into battle, a gimmick that adds variety to their trick bag and lifts up some of their lazier appearances, of which there will be very, very, very many in this series. The episode also established key differences in Ash and Go's characters, with Ash acting on his feelings and Go acting on fact and logic. And Ash really showing his stuff as a trainer, whereas Go, who didn't have any Pokemon yet, was just there watching from the sidelines. Episode 4 marked the entry of Pokemon Journey's first Galarian starter, Scorbunny, who in the anime is basically Robin Hood and immediately establishes some really great chemistry with Go. This episode wasn't really my cup of tea, but kicked off a solid start to Scorbunny's arc in the anime. In episode 5, a Snorlax Dynamaxed, and young Master Go gave up on making Mew his first Pokemon catch, probably realizing how stupid that goal was, and cracking the catch nut by catching Scorbunny as his very first Pokemon. I really did enjoy the expedition into the wild area because it actually felt like they were traveling and adventuring, unlike the situation that unfolded in many later episodes, and the consummation of the bro chemistry was pretty good stuff. In episode 6, Go caught some bug Pokemon. It was nice to see him doing his thing and enjoying spending time with his new catches, and what can I say? Scyther is pretty cool. It even lifted Tracy Sketchett's character out of the dumps, but on the whole, it was your pretty run-of-the-mill Pokemon episode. In episode 7, the boys traveled to Hoenn to participate in the Hoenn Battle Frontier Glass Flute Cup. A Shinra Kusakabe lookalike put Go on the Mummy's Boy list by dropping Scorbunny like a sack of potatoes in the tournament, but the Ketchum family's Mr. Mime shocked everyone by joining Ash's team and dominating Shinra Kusakabe and his weird big hand man Pokemon in the finals to set up the tournament win for Team Ketchum, with Pikachu happily finishing off the match by unnecessarily blowing up the stadium. Episode 7 was honestly excellent in that we saw Ash shining brightly as the powerhouse trainer that we expected him to be, following his strong performances in Sun and Moon and XY, whereas Go was set up as a character with a lot of room to grow, or should I say, to go. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Episode 8 introduced us to a Piplup who was jealous of a Krogunk, and nobody actually cared about this episode, but at least the race that settled the turbulence between these two characters was pretty fun, but not fun enough to pull this episode out of the realm of mediocrity. Episode 9 showcased Ash and Go on a search for Ho-Oh over in Johto, and while they never caught sight of one, this old man did see one. Good job, old man. For me, this episode symbolizes one of Pokemon Journey's worst shortcomings, leaning on fan service too heavily and flushing real storytelling potential straight down the poop chute. Seriously, Ho-Oh is this sort of semi-sacred Pokemon in the anime for its significance in Ash's career as a Pokemon trainer, but this episode does absolutely nothing to further that significance. Instead, we got thoroughly blueballed, we're forced to watch some dingleberry kid running around, and this episode was just uninteresting and disappointing in my books. In episode 10, Ash caught a Dragonite. Wait a second, a Dragonite? Yes, you heard that correctly, a Dragonite. It was a glorious moment in Pokemon anime history. The internet exploded, kids and adults alike crapped their pants in sheer ecstasy, and the Pokemon Company probably peddled enough Dragonite merch to build their own impregnable fortress in the middle of the sea from which to dominate the world. This episode got a super pumped up overall reaction, largely due to the fan service element, but it was fan service that actually meant something and brought us a character who would go on to make a big impact in the first season of the anime. And even if you stripped Dragonite out of the equation, it was still a really classic Ash befriends a Pokemon and catches it episode that would have worked well even if that strange orange blobby thing with wings was replaced with a nose pass. Well, maybe not a nose pass. In episode 11, side girl Chloe stepped into the spotlight, and after fulfilling her role as Pokegirl Without a Goal version 3.0, she bonded with her family's Yamper when they teamed up to defend their friends from a Gengar terrorizing the Cerise laboratory, and I was really happy to see Chloe get a little bit of that shine and start to warm up. Not to mention that her uncertainty about her future offered some story tidbits that were probably truly relatable to many viewers out there, myself included. In episode 12, the boys traveled to Galar on Professor Cerise's tab to see the World Coronation Series finals. The World Coronation Series being a competition that attracts thousands of trainers from around the world to compete in a points-based system wherein the top 8 trainers at the end of the season square off in a tournament to determine the new monarch. Basically, the top dog in the world of Pokemon training. In this season's finals, Dragon Master Lance squared off against Leon, and after an intense battle, Leon won, becoming the monarch who everyone will be looking to beat in the subsequent season. Following the match, Team Rocket also caused a wild Dreadnought to Gigantamax, and it began to go on a rampage outside the stadium, which is where the episode concluded. And gracious me, I have to say that this episode was exactly what I want to see from Pokemon Journeys. The fan service cameo was pulled off marvelously. It actually made sense in the broader narrative and in terms of setting up future story developments and motivation for Ash. The battle between the two legends was absolutely fire, full of blazing hot strategies, and it wasn't rushed like a certain battle we will get to later on. Not to mention that it set up Ash's driving goal for the series very, very well. What a great episode that was, and I do hope that we see Lance again. In episode 13, the Gigantamaxed Dreadnought from the previous episode was still wreaking havoc when Pikachu Gigantamaxed into Chubbichu and dropped the Chub on that silly turtle. After which Leon dunks on Ash in an exhibition match, inspiring him to enter the World Coronation Series for a shot at an official rematch in front of the big crowds. This episode solidified Ash's resolve to enter the World Coronation Series and also put Ash on the power scale, showing that he had a lot of room to grow even as a champ. It wasn't as wild as the previous episode, holy smokes, that was quite the episode, but it was still a banger. And at this point, it was little wonder that people were going absolutely nuts for Pokemon Journeys at this time. And then episode 14 took us back to Unova, where Ash and Go linked up with a Pokemon Ranger to traverse the desert. Ash tried to attack ground-type Pokemon with Thunderbolt for the 100th time, and Go caught a Golurk like a badass. It wasn't a powerhouse episode by any means, but I did enjoy it for its sense of adventure as well as the great placement of a raid battle and a very nice nod to all the shiny hunters out there. In episode 15, Go went home to visit his parents, and while waiting for his mom and dad to get off work, himself, Scorbunny, and their homies helped a sad, bullied little Cubone to recover its bone from the neighborhood jerks. We also got to see that Go's mom is hotter than a Magmar's armpits, and that Go's dad is basically Kyojuro Rengoku, reborn into a life of financial success, less pain and suffering, and more hot wives. Episode 16 brought us another massive catch, with Ash adding the Gengar that had been trolling the Cerise Institute into his collection. What a good boy. And maybe with this Gengar in hand, he can actually earn a legitimate Marsh badge next time he meets Sabrina. This episode was full of laughs and was a good homage to the classic abandoned Pokemon storylines of the past. In episode 17, Go's Scorbunny evolved into Reboot in order to smash the living daylights out of Team Rocket, who, as we discovered, now have a very cool underground lair. But not so cool was Reboot entering a very cringy emo phase that would last for several episodes. This episode was essentially centered on Scorbunny / Reboot's development, but the poor pacing, the boring Rocket sections, and Team Rocket actually blasting off twice, that left me feeling like I was in need of a stiff shot. Episode 18 rolled out the continuity, with Ash hopping over to Vermilion City Gym to get to work on boosting his World Coronation Series ranking, only to find that Lieutenant Surge was absent, so he laid the smackdown on local whipping boy Pisces instead. This episode really brought out the fan service in an acceptable, sensible way, and the battle was a real treat, so on the whole, I really enjoyed it. In episode 19, Team Rocket's Jessie helped a Ditto with stage fright overcome its fears and become a star. And who doesn't love Ditto? This episode was the definition of filler, but Ditto is just so cute. And I've always enjoyed the episodes wherein we see Jessie's tender side. Episode 20 followed Professor Cerise's Pokemon Orienteering event, in which 3 teams competed in a challenge to spot the most Pokemon during a journey to Vermilion Port. Of course, Team Rocket got smacked down along the way, as usual, and even though Ash's team didn't win the event, everyone had a good old time nevertheless. I came into this episode thinking that it would be a total dud, but it was actually pretty good, with Pikachu taking down Meganium in a World Coronation Series match, Chloe warming up a little bit, and to be honest, the Team Rocket content was actually pulled off a little bit better than it usually is in this series. In episode 21, Ash hatched a Riolu from an egg, and from there on out it was anyone's guess as to who was more obsessed with it, the writers, Twitter, or Ash himself. All in all, seeing Ash finally get his hands on a Riolu after years of waiting and years of teases, well, this was another case of fan service done right, and Riolu and later Lucario would become a defining feature of the Journey series. Episode 22 was the last episode of Pokemon Journeys before the Corsola Measles hiatus. And in this episode, Go's Reboot was still acting like a cringy, angsty teenager towards Daddy Go, but after Go supported his adopted son's weird dancing career and almost left him alone in the wild, they became closer than ever, and the episode ended on a truly heartwarming note. The dancing made me cringe even though it was all fun times, but the overall story did fit Reboot's character very well, and seeing Reboot come out of his emo phase thanks in part to Go's efforts, that was rather lovely. And then, after a 1.5 break from the anime, we were back at the Cerise Lab in episode 23, wherein the Pokemon living in the biosphere ran into conflict with one another over a food shortage masterminded by a fat squirrel. I get the impression that a lot of viewers dismissed this episode as filler, which, to be fair, it kind of was, but it really did zero in on the Pokemon and gave them development that they really needed. Not to mention that everyone coming together at the end to pull Go's trio of Cascoon out of a very dangerous situation was wonderful to see. Go's Golurk, you are a hero. Episode 24 brought back Matori of Team Rocket's Matori Matrix a character who literally nobody has ever cared about, as measured by the quantity of cultured drawings on the internet. But back she was, and when she interrupted a pleasant resort vacation in Sinnoh, Ash and Go teamed up with the Rocket Trio in disguise to save Pikachu and the Pokemon of other resort goers. All in all, I liked this episode. The Rocket Trio always shines in episodes wherein Team Rocket infighting takes center stage, and the stakes went up when Pikachu was taken down and captured. A good episode, and let me just say, Matori, we need to see a bit more of you. Boys and girls, episode 25 was one of the most bang episodes of Pokemon Journeys to date. Korrina re-entered the anime for a big rematch with Ash in the World Coronation series, and the episode was absolute fire, with Ash's Gengar and Dragonite squaring off against Korrina's Mega Lucario and a purple Ermin. As you may know, Dragonite carried the team to victory, and what a W that was for Team Ketchum. The one disappointing thing was that the episode didn't make as many throwbacks to the XY days as it could have, but it was significant in that it brought back Mega Evolutions, and in that the battle was a real dandy, apart from arguably Gengar getting shafted pretty hard. And I was quite pleased to see Riolu get benched to observe and learn, not to mention that it was wonderful to see Korrina and her grandpa, who has very weird eyebrows, for the first time in a long time. Episode 26 was split into two very bizarre mini episodes that were so out there that I needed to make an 18-minute video unpacking the wacky Japanese humor that was featured in that episode, because the jokes simply didn't connect with most viewers outside of Japan, even though the episode was probably the most hilarious episode of Pokemon ever aired when viewed in its native language. It also left us with that precious cursed shot of the GoBro. I do understand why a lot of fans really didn't get this episode, but I have to tell you that from my perspective, it almost definitely was the funniest Pokemon episode of all time, and I definitely want to see more of this insane but glorious filler. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on it, do check out my full 18-minute video describing the video's Japanese humor. Yes, I am taking a moment to plug one of my videos here, so please check it out. Episode 27 brought us back into the realm of sanity, wherein sweet Sonia made her debut and introduced the Darkest Day legend. We saw Raihan challenge Leon and get worked by the Purple Panther, after which bearded dad bod Chairman Rose made an appearance, and Ash used his Riolu to catch a Galarian Farfetch'd. I have to say, I was so hyped for the Raihan versus Leon battle, but the battle actually ended up just being so short and feeling very sluggish. And moreover, I thought it would have made more sense to have some build up to it and have it occur later in the episode. It just didn't hold a candle to the Lance versus Leon match, but I must admit, the second half of the episode stepped things up a notch, oddly enough, when Riolu took down a Galarian Farfetch'd and Ash snagged it. And on the whole, this was a pretty good episode, but there was just way too much content packed in. So much so that I actually had to make 3 videos on this episode back when it came out. But all in all, while it could have been improved quite a bit, it was a thoroughly enjoyable episode. Next up in episode 28, Go caught a Sobble very easily, which triggered many people on the internet, much as everything else Go does. I think they're just jealous that he's better at Pokemon than them. But without any real build up to the Sobble catch, and a pretty weak Team Rocket appearance, the episode felt a bit too watered down for my tastes, even though I was happy to see Sobble join Go's roster. In episode 29, over at the Cerise household, Chloe's Yamper got jealous of an injured P-Dove the family took in to nurse back to good health, but Yamper and Chloe later teamed up to put roasted Firo on the dinner menu, becoming closer than ever in the process. This episode gave us a nice glimpse into Chloe's past, showing us flashbacks that indicate she was always a bit distant with Pokemon and that she was traumatized by a group of Venonat way back in the past, a situation from which she was rescued by Yamper. This episode wasn't a thriller by any means, but it did offer us some very solid character development. The green monster struck again in episode 30, when Ash and the internet's weird Riolu hard-on triggered Pikachu, who got caught up in the Song of Envy and ran away from Ash, but surprising absolutely no one, they got back together at the end of the episode. I have to say though, although the episode has great moments from Delia, Chloe, as well as Ash and Pikachu themselves, Pikachu's sudden character break wasn't particularly convincing, the fan service was cheaper than a beef bowl at Yoshinoya, and Pikachu and Mimi's journey probably could have been half of the length that it was. Not a particularly great episode. Episode 31 was built around a Pokemon beauty contest, in which a friend of Chloe's little brother, a girl named Nami, wanted to compete with her Feebas at a beauty contest to show that Feebas are cute, which they are. Feebas are very cute in their own way. So we saw Chloe step up to the plate to help Nami and Feebas train for the competition, and the contest was a good time apart from the absolutely pointless Team Rocket intrusion. Moreover, Nami's Feebas evolved into a Milotic, and much like viewers, it's probably the only thing that her friends will ever love her for. Just kidding, Nami is a good girl. This episode was pretty cute, and I really do love Milotic, Milotic, however you want to pronounce that Pokemon's name. Episode 32 was a breath of fresh air, an episode in which Ash and Pikachu didn't even appear outside of the opening and credits, and instead we saw Go travel to Azalea Town in Johto with the fam, and we were treated to these deep flashbacks, revealing Go's search for the Ilex Forest Shrine with another boy many years ago. This episode had a proper sense of adventure that is quite lacking in Journeys, and it made me hungry for more episodes like it. So unless things change, I guess I'd better brace myself for disappointment. I mean, Ash is our boy, but good gravy. It is so refreshing to see other characters wrestle the mic out of his clammy little hands, and to see a real sense of discovery and adventure injected back into the anime. I really loved seeing Go on his own, and his relationship with and perceived betrayal by Tokyo shed light on why he was so aloof with people at the onset of the show. A great episode that left me wanting to see more of Go's adventures. In episode 33, Ash and Go tag-teamed a Bug-type trainer, with Ash dropping her like a fly to boost his World Coronation Series ranking, and Go swooping in to trade her a crappy Pinsir in exchange for none other than Herman Heracross Reborn. Take notes and make sure you always rip off the kids like your boy Go. But let us also note that this episode was not particularly interesting. Episode 34 brought us to the Friendly Neighborhood Dojo, where Go picked up a Hitmonchan off-screen while cocky Ash and internet golden boy Riolu got slopped around like dirty slush under a car tire in winter by everyone's favorite karate master with well-proportioned feet, B. Understandably, Ash was devastated by the savage manhandling, and a redemption arc was set into motion. This battle was a battle with real tension, and holy smokes, it was tough watching Riolu take that brutal beatdown, like seeing your friend in junior high school get his leg broken in a provincial wrestling tournament. And I thought it was great to see Mary Jane, Pokemon Journey's Ash, fall hard and begin a redemption arc. Or at least, I thought it would be a redemption arc at that time in the anime. Episode 35 promotions teased viewers with the possibility of Ash's Pikachu evolving, and somewhere in the middle of everyone on the internet clickbaiting everyone else on the internet, Go caught his very own female Pikachu who soon went the way of the Raichu. And of course, Ash's Pikachu obviously did not evolve, but it probably did save a few YouTubers from the jaws of bankruptcy, and we can thank it for that. This video reaffirmed Pikachu's "I don't want to evolve into a Raichu" stance for newer viewers, and the intense go-getter female Pikachu was fun, but the episode on the whole wasn't anything too special. Really, it was nothing more than a lifesaver to Pokemon YouTubers. In episode 36, Ash lapsed into a demoralizing losing streak set into motion by his embarrassing defeat at the feet of B, and during a mission to investigate a sandstorm in Mawile, Kintetsu City, he went full milksop on us, breaking down, trying to attack a ground-type Pokemon with an electric-type attack again, like a distraught drunkard, and he set Go up to make him and Riolu look like total noobs by taking down and catching the Flygon at the center of the storm with style. This was Ash Ketchum at his absolute worst, but he did perk up after the rising Go encouraged him with a motivational speech. Go was the star of this episode, and he proved that he can shine in battle too when need be. He is more than simply a catch expert. It was also an episode in which we saw Ash living in the depths of despair and bounce back to his usual self thanks to some very nice bro bonding. On the whole, a good episode thanks to our boy, Go. The much hyped episode 37 had the boys travel to Alola, and it was nice to see the Alola crew again, even though not much happened outside of Go stealing center stage and making yet another Braveheart speech, in which he announced that he was no mere Ash cheerleader, that he was all about reaching for his own goals in his own way. Attaboy Go. However, while I am 151% sure that this is not a popular opinion, in many ways this episode came off as cheap fan service 101 to me. I was happy to see the Alola group, but with half the episode dedicated to running around and making introductions, there was hardly any time left for anything meaningful to happen outside of the brilliant Go speech. Ash was totally sidelined in what was widely perceived to be a triumphant homecoming episode. Nobody even mentioned his league champ status. I think that more than anything, we needed 2 episodes in a row back in Alola to go anywhere with the Alola stuff. The episode was okay. I was super happy to see Lily and Gladion seeking out their father, but the missed potential simply left me wanting more. In post-Alola episode 38, the lads dug around for fossils with Chloe because, why not, she needs more screen time. Go caught a badass Aerodactyl to further weirdize the power balance between him and Ash. Team Rocket made another very lame appearance, and when all was said and done, the whole episode was kind of meh. Yes, it brought back memories of prehistoric Pokemon in the original series, but it wasn't half as interesting. And then we had episode 39, wherein after a few episodes of mucking about, digging up turds, and taking beach vacations, doing nothing to drive forward any semblance of a redemption arc, Ash finally got his rematch with Bee, and what do you know? He took her to a draw. And then Chuck also showed everyone his dad bod and fed them cake because that's what big daddies do. Given my lack of excitement for episode 39, you're probably thinking I'm about to roast it to a crisp, but despite Ash's terrible lead up to the redemption narrative, which basically consisted of him sucking as a Pokemon trainer and Go cheering him up, this lackluster lead up being about as effective as, I don't know, attacking a Flygon with a Thunderbolt, Episode 39 in itself offered us a tight battle, showed us another side of B's character, and boy oh boy, who does not want to head over to Uncle Chuck's place for lunch? This was the model case for the expression, hate the anime, but not the episode. In episode 40, side character 1 and side character 2 teamed up with main characters 1, 2, and 3 in a raid battle against Zapdos. It was a battle wherein Go truly shone against Flygon and Reboot, the two of which demonstrated teamwork that was just delicious. And while Go didn't manage to capture Zapdos, and I wish he did just to hear the squealing on Twitter, this episode, while not particularly significant plot-wise, was another strong Go show. So how do you follow up a super cool battle with a badass legendary bird? According to episode 41, with grime scraped up off the cutting room floor, slapped between two slices of rotten cheese bread, and fed to viewers as if no one would notice in another two-part split. Part 1 involved Jesse and James trying to dub over Pikachu tapes, and it wasn't funny. And part 2 involved trying to pull a Marshtomp out of the ground, and that wasn't particularly funny either. So while episode 26 was brilliant, the two-part Thunderbolt certainly did not strike twice. But it was okay that episode 41 sucked, because this bottom of the barrel filler was followed by the Sword and Shield Darkest Day arc that comprised episodes 42 to 45. And let's not mince words, this arc was absolutely awesome, and what I wish the anime was like 70% of the time, but is actually only like maybe 8 or 10% of the time. And while I wanted to knock off all 4 of these episodes with one review score, screw it, let's hit them all. In episode 42, Ash's Dynamax band suddenly lit up like a Christmas tree, so he and Go went on over to Galar to visit Dynamax research expert Magnus Magnolia for answers, but on the way to see Magnus Magnolia and her 5 out of 5 charusharu fairy's daughter, they got lost in the fog and ran into 2 big, important dogs, while at the same time Pokemon started Dynamaxing uncontrollably across the Galar region. This episode felt like the beginning of a proper adventure. Leon showed up to perform feats of badassery, and the episode set up the rest of the arc quite well. Then, in episode 43, our boy Go scored a 3-point shot. A research date with Sonya, his own Dynamax band, and a real banana slammer of a flex when he Dynamaxed Reboot to take on a bunch of cronies sent by Rose's assistant Oleana to take him and Sonya out. Meanwhile, Ash and Leon subdued various Dynamaxed Pokemon, and Cherryman Rose tried to lure Ash to the dark side by offering to mentor him as he did with Leon, but Ash said, "Nope, I am going to do this by myself. I am going to climb to the summit of all trainers by myself." Attaboy, Ash. That is why we love you even when you act like an idiot half the time. This episode really did give us the setup that we needed to make the next 2 episodes count by feeding us some very tasty opening skirmishes to rack up the tension for the main event, giving Big G McG his comeback, and humanizing Chairman Rose. Do make sure you watch the Pokemon Twilight Wings anime to see his character fleshed out even further. Yes, you may consider them as separate universes, but I think that it really just adds so much to his character. And the verdict is, this episode was another juice bomb of an episode. In episode 44, Reboot proceeded to drop the cronies that he was turning up the heat on in the previous episode. Bye bye Garbodor. After which, Go and Sonya view the statues of Zacian and Zamazenta, and they are interested in them because everyone loves looking at statues of dogs. And Go realizes that yes, those dogs that he met earlier in the forest are actually very important. Elsewhere, Eternatus breaks out of Tummy Truffle Rose's energy plant to set the Black Knight into motion. And on the flip side, Go and Sonya Sonya actually meet Zacian and Zamazenta in the Slumbering Woods and acquire a very important sword and equally important shield, even as Chairman Rose shows his true colors to Leon and Ash. And Eternatus escapes Rose's control, with Leon following it in hot pursuit as Ash, Pikachu, and Riolu take on Rose, Elephant Man, and Ovary Monster, and Go turns up with Reboot to engage Oleana and Milotic. And even Raihan shows up to offer some lessons in manliness to everyone. Not only did this episode ratchet up the stakes for the climax, but thank Frank we actually got additional insights into Tableman Rose's backstory, as his backstory of devastating loss of life that set him on his track to try and unlock boundless energy for Galarians so that no one would ever have to go through what he did. It just added another layer to his character that made his motivations so much more believable. While we certainly did not need the Gigantamax, Team Rocket, Meowth antics, this episode was great. Journeys was on fire with 3 banger episodes in a row, and the best was yet to come. Episode 45. The stage was set. And episode 45 did not disappoint, with not just 1 but 3 intense battles on the go, during which Ash's Riolu evolved into Lucario to save Ash and Pikachu, smashing Elephant and Ovary Monster into the dust with its newfound strength. Go's Reboot evolved into Cinderace to slap down Milotic. Leon and Charizard held their ground against Eternatus until it powered up into Eternamax Eternatus to overwhelm them. Pikachu, Lucario, and Cinderace came to Leon's aid in absolute epic fashion. Ash and Go put the cherry on the cake by wielding the Sword and Shield of Legend to summon Zacian and Zamazenta and bring Eternatus down. And finally, the dudes sealed it away in a Pokeball, putting an end to the Black Knight and restoring peace to Galar. This whole arc was like a series of good dates, but episode 45, well, it was that deep kiss that you had been waiting for. And that was probably a weird way to put it, but what I mean to say is that it was the best of the bunch. And so concluded the 4-part Pokemon Journeys Sword and Shield arc. They were big dogs, big battles, big evolutions, Sonya. And as expected, Ash, Go, and Leon stopped Chairman Rose and Eternatus to save Galar. These episodes were easily among the best that the Pokemon Journeys series has had to offer, and good golly, Miss Molly. Even if you had been put off by numerous episodes of meaningless filler and an overall lack of good story arcs, do come back to check out this great segment of the Pokemon Journeys anime, because it is really great. Episode 46 brought another big gun to the show with the appearance of Mewtwo, when Ash and Go ventured to Zero Island in search of Mew, and even though the counter didn't amp up the continuity as much as many older fans would have liked, I mean, it could have probably created some stronger ties to the past, given much cheaper stuff that we've seen in earlier episodes. Ash did seem to recognize Mewtwo from way back, and it was cool seeing Cinderace and Lucario take on Mewtwo and get blown out by Mewtwo's supreme awesomeness. Not to mention that the final scene of Ash and Go communicating with Mewtwo about their dreams for the future only reaffirmed their resolve to chase down their dreams, and it was pretty cool to see Mewtwo vouch his support for them. In episode 47, the boys entered their Pokemon into an eating contest, and Go's Squavit, however you pronounce the English name, evolved into a Greedent to crush Morpeko and win the contest, scoring the group a prize trip to Unova. This episode was a fun time and gave us a moment to just step back and relax after the truly wild 5-episode ride leading up to it. Episode 48 took us on the group's prize trip to Castelia City over in Unova, where the lads enjoyed an all-you-can-eat tour, and Team Rocket pulled off some goofy antics involving a Mecha Pikachu and ice cream. And while Ash and Go were too focused on feasting to notice what was going on, Lucario and Cinderace ended up teaming up to drop the people's elbow on those weakling Rockets, amping up their bro bond in the process. What I can tell you is that this episode did not need to be set in Unova. It could have been set anywhere, to be honest, as it simply didn't leverage the setting even 1/10 as well as it could have on our second visit there. But the bro time and seeing Lucario and Cinderace overcome their tensions redeemed the episode to some extent. Regardless, it simply wasn't really a winner in my eyes. In episode 39, we saw Chloe protect an Eevee that had escaped from the Eevee Evolution Laboratory, and they also leaped into battle to defend Chloe's school from Team Rocket. Why are these creepy people coming to elementary schools? I don't know. And in the end, Chloe actually captures the Eevee, making her first Pokemon catch and taking a big step forward as a Pokemon trainer in a very lovely episode. When it comes down to it, holy moly, I really wish the writers would lay off some of the Team Rocket appearances at this point, because really they are taking up space in episodes that are already a bit too cramped. But on the other hand, the Chloe stuff in episode 49 was pretty great. And I wonder if her Eevee will evolve. And if it does, what form will it take? What do you think? Well, there you have it, all 49 episodes of Pokémon Journeys Season 1 reviewed. To bring you up to speed on Pokémon Journeys and let you know which episodes I thought were good and which were not so good. And to sum things up, if you do want my general thoughts on the overall Pokémon Journeys anime, don't forget to check out my Is Pokémon Journeys Actually Good video. But let me just say right here that as openly critical of Pokémon Journeys as I have been, I am honestly enjoying it quite a bit. The majority of fan service and cameos from characters of the past have been pretty fun. The battles that Ash and Go partake in and the locations they travel to are pretty rad, and more than anything, as disjointed as the overall story is, a lot of these episodes deliver these self-contained stories that are full of heart. And I think the episode-to-episode quality is what really makes this series worth watching for both old and new fans. Yes, the overall story is a bit weak, but in general, the individual episodes are often some of the best we have seen in the anime. Or at least, that is what I think. But how about you? Are you enjoying Pokémon Journeys? How does it stack up against other Pokémon anime series? And what has been your favorite Pokémon Journeys episode to date? I'm curious what you think. Well, if you are still here, thank you so much for tuning into today's very long video. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of every episode in Pokémon Journeys to date. I'd like to know whether you agree or disagree with my opinions on the episodes. Until next time, I hope that you all have a very healthy, happy, and safe week. Don't forget to follow me over on Twitter. Subscribe if you haven't already, because it makes my videos so much easier for you to find. And as always, let's chat.
What?